Good morning from Moscow on Tuesday, May the 26th. Coming up, differences of opinion inside Russia on what next for the so-called special military operation. First, several of today's Russian papers publish yesterday's statement by the Russian Foreign Ministry. Here it is in the Russian government paper, Российская газета. It announces Moscow's intention to launch what it calls consistent and systematic strikes on enterprises of the Ukrainian defense industry in Kyiv, including specific facilities for the design, production and programming of drones and their preparation for use. It adds that the strikes will also target decision-making centres and command posts, and it calls on foreign nationals, including diplomats and staff of international organisations, to leave the city as soon as possible. Well, the head of the EU mission in Kyiv has already said the EU is not pulling out. Moscow is linking the threatened strikes to what happened in the town of Starobilsk last Friday in Russian-occupied eastern Ukraine, where a college and student dorm was struck. Russian officials say 21 students were killed in a Ukrainian drone attack. Komsomolskaya Pravda today claims Europe and the US do not want to know about the tragedy in Starobilsk because they are accessories to it. There's a lot of talk about exacting revenge. This is the febrile atmosphere we're in right now, more than 4 years after Russia's mass invasion of Ukraine. But as Russia threatens to launch more strikes on Kyiv, there is clearly a debate going on inside Russia about where the war goes from here. As Moskovsky Komsomolets reports this morning, the Russian expert community has split over future scenarios for the SMO, the so-called special military operation. It was this split which became the dominant topic at last weekend's assembly of the Council for Foreign and Defence Policy. A political scientist, Alexander Nosovich, puts it like this: the professional community is split between those in favour of continuing the SMO until the stated goals are achieved, and those who believe it's time to end it, because the worst case scenario is not even defeat, it's an endless SMO. And if in previous years the hawks set the tone and soloed at assembly meetings, this time they had to try to persuade and defend themselves. The writer also refers to a magazine article which is being discussed a lot here right now. It's an article by the political scientist Vasily Kashin, writing for the Russia in Global Affairs journal. And in the article, Vasily Kashin writes this: the goal of eliminating the anti-Russian regime in Ukraine at the current stage is fundamentally unachievable without the complete military occupation of the entire country, including the western part, for a long period. For Russia, this is technically impossible. Consequently, this goal can only be considered as an extremely long-term one. But within the framework of the SMO, it is not achievable and should not be mentioned. He adds, hopes for the accession to Russia of new large Ukrainian territories in the event of a hypothetical collapse of the Ukrainian front line look strange. Russia does not have the capacity to sustainably control and manage such territories with a devastated economy and an extremely hostile population. The only way to prevent such a development would have been to implement the SMO as it was likely initially planned, as a bloodless and lightning-fast special operation. And he concludes, we must proceed from the fact that Ukraine will continue to hold the front line for a number of years, nor do we have any reason to expect that the positional impasse in the war in Ukraine will be overcome in the foreseeable future. So far, neither tactical nor technical solutions have been found that would allow a return to mobile warfare in conditions where the battlefield is transparent and where first-person view drones are being used on a gigantic scale without means of combating them.